10 items or less is incredibly boring, and it's definitely relying on a pretty great cast. We have some really good cameos in this, which I'll talk about in a moment, but the actual film itself, I thought it was terrible. Also, I don't like saying the title because it's grammatically incorrect and it really rubs me up the wrong way. Would the film have been more successful if it was called 10 items or fewer? I highly doubt it. This was directed by Brad Silberling, written by Silberling, released in 2006, and it stars Morgan Freeman and Paz Vega. We also have Jonah Hill, and the reason I watched it, Rhea Perlman, who appears very briefly in this with Danny DeVito. We also have Jim Parsons. There are enough names in this that I think there would be enough people watching this, but the actual narrative I thought was, well, there is no narrative really. It's an hour and 20 minutes, give or take, of basically just a conversation between our two protagonists. Morgan Freeman plays an actor, and he meets a woman in a grocery store, Scarlet. She works in the store, and they then just talk for about an hour and 20 minutes, maybe just under that by the time they meet. And they talk in different locations. They talk in the store where they meet, they talk in a Target, they talk in the car, and the conversations are so boring. It's not interesting to listen to. And the performances aren't bad, but they're not doing anything interesting. And there is no real narrative to this. And not having a narrative would be okay if the characters were likable and the hour-plus long conversation was interesting, but that's not the case on either account. I didn't necessarily dislike either of the characters. It took me a little time to warm to Scarlet, but I didn't necessarily dislike them, but they weren't interesting. They were not interesting characters, so I can't say it's character driven. It definitely isn't narrative driven, and the dialogue is very dull, and it has, in my opinion, absolutely nothing to offer apart from a pretty decent cast. It does have 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and I don't usually look at the reviews before doing my own discussion, but I was really confused by that rating because I don't rate it anywhere near that. And it seems like a lot of people really enjoy it, but a lot of people also share my opinion that nothing happens. So I would say I don't recommend it in the slightest, but also some people seem to like it. So if there's anything about this drawing you to it, maybe the cast, give it a go. You might like it, but I have nothing positive to say about this. I found it to be one of the most boring lack of films ever. There's no substance and there's no style. So apart from the cast, 10 items or less has nothing to offer. In my opinion, you might enjoy it. Maybe I'm missing something. If that's the case, brilliant. But personally, I was bored the entire way through. And as I said, obviously I like watching certain actors perform, but their performances were not that interesting because the material was very dull. Not a good film. I don't recommend it, but clearly some people have enjoyed it. So if there's any reason why you think you might like it, give it a go. But personally, it wasn't for me.